Welcome to Caffeinated Flicks,
where we drink coffee and celebrate diverse directors.
I'm Celeste.
And I'm Kenzie.
How are you today?
Good. I started watching that show Undercover and Underage.
Oh.
No, not Under.
What?
Yes, it's on HBO Max, and it's about this nonprofit organization that goes undercover as teenage girls to basically capture pedophiles, perverts. And it's
wow.
It's addicting, but it is so disturbing and so disgusting. Because they don't sugarcoat what these people are saying.
Dude.
I know. It's intense, but
you want to know something funny? So I got summoned for jury duty. And
is this your first time?
This is technically my second summons, but this is the first time that I've made it to like the forms to fill out or something like that. And so today I was filling out all the forms because I think it's a grand jury. I have no idea. And so like there are 1,000 questions. And
like at home you fill this out?
Yeah. It's like an online survey.
Oh, okay.
And so in the survey related to what you just mentioned, undercover and underage, like,
oh no.
Apparently this grand jury, this trial, that's the word, has something to do with some kind of prostitution and money laundering. I don't know, something or the nature. And the only reason why I know that is because I've had several questions on the survey asking me like, what is your stance on prostitution?
Yeah.
What is your stance on law enforcement and sex work and like all these things? Does that change your opinion on these things? Will that make you a fair and partial juror? Like, my favorite question was like, have you seen any documentaries, read any articles, had any conversations about Me Too, prostitution, sex work, or like sex trafficking or human trafficking? And I'm like, yes. And then it asked like which ones. And I'm like, I have no idea. There are so many out there. I have no idea. Like, I can't recall all of those. And so and then it asks, can you remain like fair and impartial? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure, considering I can't remember any of these.
Oh my goodness. Did you get selected?
I don't know yet. I just turned that in today.
Oh, that was today?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I did jury duty back when we worked at Starbucks.
Oh, that's right. You told me.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me again, because I can't remember. All I know. Oh, no. I remember when you got paid for a mock trial. So I don't remember about this jury duty.
I did a mock trial. That was fun. I heard somewhere that you're supposed to get paid for jury duty. Like they're supposed to pay you. That's what I heard online. I'm like, I did not get paid. Anyways, but yeah, I got selected and I felt so young. And I was like I felt like I was one of the youngest people there. Because at the time I was like in my early 20s. Yeah. And oh my God, I remember I was one of the first people to get selected. And I was so pissed. I almost started crying. I was so mad.
To be fair, I'm like one of the weird people in that I've always wanted to sit on a jury. And like, I'm so excited to sit for jury duty.
I'm so happy I ended up doing it because I enjoyed it. It was in downtown. I got to eat at like all these new restaurants. And I met such nice people. But then I was pissed again because I ended up being juror 11. I was like, what the fudge?
What does that have to do with anything?
There's only 10, so there's 2 backups. Oh. So you have nothing to do with the decision-making process.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I thought there were 12 jurors and that backups were 13, 14. So now I understand.
Yeah. So
see, you're teaching me.
But you have to be there for the whole process.
Damn.
And then at the very last minute, they're like, oh, okay, you guys can leave. And I was like, what the fudge? I was so salty. I went to a donut shop afterwards.
Hey, I would too. Damn. That sounds awesome.
It was an interesting experience. So definitely look into if you get paid or not, because if you should, then
I know that you get paid to be a poll worker, like on voting days, because I got paid. So that's cool.
That's exciting. I thought those were strictly volunteer.
Nope, you get paid.
Yeah, because I remember you doing that.
And
Awesome.
dude, it was like 15 hours. So you get paid like $200 or $300 for a day. And I'm like, sweet, I'm good.
Nice.
And you get all of your steps in, all of them for the week. All of them.
Yeah. That sounds intense.
It was. So lots of civic duties to do.
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about undercover and underage or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a show to watch. That's a bender.
If you're into the crime junkie and I'm trying to think of what the word is. Uncut. And just grungy.
Yeah.
Grungy.
It's been it's been a whatever. But you just came back from vacation.
I did just come back from vacation and it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. We stayed at my dear friend Bethany and Shay's house and they were so sweet. They got me this mug that has Sasquatch on it and some
I thought it was a football at
UFOs.
first.
Nope.
The trees were the little marks on a football. But now okay.
Nope, it's got Sasquatch on it. And I love Sasquatch. I'm a big sucker for Sasquatch. So there was Sasquatch things everywhere because they live in Oregon. And it tickled my heart. And so I was very pleased. And we went whitewater rafting and we went to the coast. And we had a lot of food and a lot of beer. Richard had some wine. Bethany had some wine.
Everybody had wine.
Everybody had wine. Except for me and Shay. Me and Shay are not really wine drinkers, but we had some beer, and so it was great. Lots of puppy time.
I saw them. And this was your guys' first time whitewater rafting, right?
Well, it was my first time whitewater rafting. As it turns out, Richard had been before. What a bugger.
Did you love it?
I did, yes. But I will say, I'm a really big weirdo in that we didn't actually row as much as I wanted to.
What do you mean? Were you not in the front? Were you in the middle?
I was in the middle.
Yeah.
But like for whatever reason, we just I guess the water just flowed naturally really well. And so we didn't have to row very much. And so I was like, oh no, but I really want to row. I like paddling.
That's so funny. If I were you, I would have been like, yes, put me in the middle. I want to just cruise. So if we ever go together, you can go in front.
Yes, I'm in. Let's do it. I also want to get like a kayak so that way I can like go kayaking and row to my heart's content.
It's a lot of work kayaking.
I know, and I'm so excited.
I think I'm pretty sure it's my mom and I. We went to some lake up north, and it's a lot of work. Oh my gosh! It's like we had to take breaks because our arms were tired.
Well, then you're not doing something right. You're supposed to row with your like abs and your whole like abdominal wall.
We don't have it. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
But it was still fun.
Well, I'm glad you had fun. That's all that matters. And as long as you're not stranded, also. Yeah. The fact that you made it back alive is important.
Thank goodness.
And then, of course, you washed our cats for us, which we appreciate.
Yeah.
The cats. But yeah. So, what are you drinking today?
So, I didn't get coffee this morning. So, I made some homemade chai with like the concentrate from Trader Joe's. And side note, have you been to Trader Joe's recently and like just been astonished by how much the prices have gone up? It felt like a major splurge when I went. I was like, what the? I don't know. That may have just been me. But
I have. I went probably 3 weeks ago or something like that, but I didn't notice prices. But to be fair, it's the only time that I go shopping is when I go grocery shopping. So I can just like, I'm going to try a little bit of this and I'm going to try a little bit of that. And I'm going to go ahead and indulge in a little bit of this because this seems fun and fancy and yummy. So it is a splurge for me.
Yeah, because you like to get everything. You're like, oh, this is new.
I do.
And like, what I love about Trader Joe's is they have their own unique, like, foods But also, like, they're not more expensive than your regular grocery store.
Mhm. Very true.
And so, but the last time when I went this past weekend, I was like, holy crap, everything went up. Like, everything. Oh my
They're
God.
probably just trying to match regular grocery stores at this point.
Yeah. They're like, everybody else is going up. We might as well. Anyways, I brought a chai concentrate from there. That's how I made that this morning. And then right now I just went to Dunkin'.
Ooh, yum.
And
What'd you get there?
oh my gosh, so I got their iced coffee. I did 2 pumps French vanilla with oat milk. And I love that combination.
Ooh, who are
I
you?
know. And it was amazing because I think the guy there was new because I've never seen him before. And I think he charged me wrong because it was only $3.08.
Ooh, so you mean wrong in the undercharge kind of way?
Yeah.
Yes. The system's working in your favor.
I know. I was like, thank goodness. It was very exciting. It was the highlight of my day.
Something's got to work, right?
Right. What are you
I love
drinking
it.
today?
Let's see. This morning, so I got, speaking of splurging, I got fed an Instagram ad. And after being fed it for a while, I finally bought into it.
Oh no. So you're the person that the Instagram ads target. Because I'm like, do people really buy
Sometimes.
these things?
Sometimes
I'm just thinking that. I'm like, who buys stuff from these Instagram ads? Which can
I
be
do
sometimes-
hide them a lot. But sometimes it depends on the thing. For whatever reason, if it's a consumable, I'm a lot more likely to buy it. But it's a specific coffee. So it's a mushroom coffee. And the company is called Rise, Ryze. And they have these mushroom coffees. They've got like a whole bunch of adaptogens in them and stuff like that. And so I'm trying it out. I'm seeing how it works. They also have a matcha. That's actually why I bought it, is because I really wanted to try their matcha and I wanted some matcha at home. So that way I can make myself some matchas. But I also bought their coffee too. So that way I could have matcha and coffee. And so I had myself my mushroom coffee this morning with some cold brew that I made. And then, so that was this morning's drink. And then right now I'm drinking some CBD pumpkin spice tea with some honey
Ooh, iced tea. Oh my goodness. That sounds
in
delicious.
my Sasquatch mug.
Soon it'll be pumpkin season for you. I heard Starbucks just announced their release date, and I swear every year it's like a week earlier and earlier, 120 out, and they're like, we're ready for pumpkin.
To be fair, it's not 120 out in Seattle. So
True. It's not 120 out everywhere.
right, exactly. It's only here in the desert. That's fine.
California is really hot too. I just saw this past weekend that San Diego was just a few degrees less than us. It was like 108.
No way.
Well, yes way.
That's
I was like,
weird.
what the heck? I know.
I don't know what to do with that.
I don't know what to do with this information either.
I'm always freezing in San Diego. Now I'm very confused.
It's a different heat because they have the ocean and
We move on from San Diego to LA, where our movie is hosted this week. Do you like my transition there? I tried my best. This week's movie is 1993's Poetic Justice. This was directed by John Singleton. And John Singleton was born January 6th, 1968. So he is a Capricorn, or was a Capricorn. And he was born in Los Angeles. And then he actually passed away of a stroke after being in a coma from a stroke on April 28th of 2019. So not that many years ago. And so a little bit about John Singleton. He attended the film writing program at USC after graduating from high school in 1986. While studying there, he won 3 writing awards from the university, which led to a contract with Creative Arts Agency during his sophomore year. Columbia Pictures bought his script for Boys in the Hood from 1991 and budgeted it at $7 million. Singleton noted that much of the story comes from his own experiences in South Central LA and credited his parents with keeping him off the street. Boys in the Hood was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Director in 1991, making Singleton the first African American and the youngest person ever nominated for the award. The film also garnered a nomination for Best Original Screenplay. So unlike some of our directors in the past, Singleton actually credits his mother for helping him become a director. So she was actually very influential in his ability to move on and be creative and then become a director in that regard. And he met Lawrence Fishburne when he was a production assistant on Pee-wee's Playhouse, which Lawrence Fishburne was Cowboy Curtis on Pee-wee's Playhouse. And then he was an intern for the Arsenio Hall show and was writing the script for Boys in the Hood, which is where he met Ice Cube. And that is how he got Ice Cube to star in Boys in the Hood. So John Singleton had screen tested Ice Cube, which he then recalled later on the Queen Latifah show in 1999, because Ice Cube had just started his acting career when Boys in the Hood came out.
I did not know Queen Latifah had her own show. Did you know that?
I didn't either.
I feel like that would be a really good show to watch.
Right? Oh, I love Queen Latifah so much. I love her so much.
Yeah.
Another fun fact about John Singleton, he loved to collect and read comic books. That is a little bit of a shout out for my dad, who also loves to collect and read comic books. He's got like 2 or 3 bookcases of comic books. And if you know anything about comic books, those things are not thick. They are very thin. So he's got hundreds of comic books. And then John Singleton was a huge fan of Westerns. In fact, many of the shots in his films are influenced by Westerns. And much like we will see later in our actual film recap, he grew up next to drive-in movie theaters and saw many movies from the window of his house.
I love that.
Right? So lots of fun.
Oh.
So in Poetic Justice, it didn't do quite as well as Boys in the Hood did. Boys in the Hood was John Singleton's like breakout film, but Poetic Justice was the second film to come out after that. And this film stars Tupac Shakur, Janet Jackson, Regina King, which when I saw Regina King was in this, I was like, oh my God, Regina King. I love Regina King.
Yes.
Joe Torre, Maya Angelou makes a star appearance here. Jennifer Lewis, Yvette Wilson, Tyra Farrell, Q-Tip, Cody Alexandra, Michael Rappaport, Tone Locke, Billy Zane, Maya Campbell.
When I saw Billy Zane in this, as you're gonna come to, he's in the opening scene. I was like, did I just rent the wrong movie? I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, and then I was like, oh, okay, it's the right movie.
When I saw Lori Petty, I was like, oh, and then I was like, ah, damn.
Yeah. I know. I was hoping they were gonna have something to do with the movie.
I know. It was still fun though. It was still fun. And then we have a couple of other individuals who show up as well as side characters. So, as I mentioned, Maya Angelou does make a star appearance in this movie, more than just a cameo. She also wrote all of the poetry that comes in to this movie as well. So, any of the poetry that you hear throughout the movie is Maya Angelou's poetry, which has always had a staple in the culture, especially within the 90s. 80s and the early 2000s. So without further ado, do you want to take the talking over, Celeste, so I can take a drink of water?
Yes. Alrighty. So the 10 out of 10 rating, we'll go ahead and get into that, is so easy to relate to this film. Now, honestly, if you weren't born and raised in LA, you probably wouldn't be able to relate to this.
However, I was born and raised in LA, and all of the characters' speech, slang, and laid backness reminds me so much of people I know. It especially reminds me of being a teenager in high school and all the boy drama and fights where all we did was swear at each other. It's very easy for me to identify with, and I think as long as you're from Los Angeles, you should be able to relate to this film.
Do we think that the commenter or review is a girl or a gay man? All the boy drama and fights?
That's funny. Could be either or.
Could go either way.
Exactly.
I love it. So the 1 out of 10, no poetry, no justice, no talent. John Singleton has not and probably never will make a good film. Poetic Justice is sophomoric, trite, and sacrimonious garbage. As in all of Singleton's films, racial stereotypes abound. Weak performances by Shakur and Jackson don't help.
Okay.
All right. Much like our other review responses, all righty then. You clearly have never heard of Maya Angelou and are obviously not a Boys in the Hood fan.
Clearly, yeah. It isn't so long since I've seen Boys in the Hood. There.
Oh, yeah?
Mhm.
Well, at some point in time, we'll have to do that. And I
Yeah.
believe Boys in the Hood too.
Oh, yeah, there is a number 2. Huh.
There is a number 2.
I don't think I've seen
Boys-
that one.
I have not.
Yeah.
Nope. But yeah, we'll just have to have like a theme month, you know. It'll
Yeah.
be great. So shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So as we alluded to, we open up on a scene of Billy Zane and Lori Petty having dinner as she's aggressively putting down the wine.
She's on the prowl in this scene.
She is. But then she's like, what are you trying to do to me, huh? Are you trying to get with me? And then she smacks him and then she makes out with him. And then at some point in time, we realize that it's a movie and a drive-in in South Central LA. And we realize that there's some kind of action movie. And at some point in time, she's got like a gun and I don't know what's happening in this movie. But that's not the point of this scene, honestly. But she does look great in that blue dress. I will tell you that much.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Billy Zane with no hair.
I know. I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, is it Lex Luthor? I'm very confused.
I know some men can pull off the bald head. He cannot.
That's all you see of him now.
Yeah.
I was like, what happened to Titanic? Billy Zane. Excuse me. Oh, well.
I know.
What can you do? Some people just go bald and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's okay.
That's true.
He does look really good in a hat, though.
There you go.
So just got to keep that sucker on. That's all.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that Richard told me one time that he thinks that I would actually look good bald?
Oh my gosh, that's a compliment.
I know. It was so great.
Wow.
He was like, you might actually pull that off.
Oh man.
I actually have like good facial structure for that. Cool.
No, you really do have to have it to pull that off.
Yes. So I was
Nice.
like, thank you. I feel good about that. Anyway, so after we realize that we're in a drive-in movie, we see all the different cars, people buying their tickets, and we're zooming across the drive-in. And then we zoom into a car where we see Janet Jackson and Q-Tip sitting and making out. We learn that this is Justice, Janet Jackson's character, and Markel, Q-Tip's character. She tells him that she wants him to back up and that he keeps asking that they get in the back seat. And she's like, no, I don't want to do this right now. Some fun facts for you. As it turns out, Janet Jackson actually caught a cold from Q-Tip during this kissing scene.
I would be so salty.
I think she was. I'm pretty sure she was. During this altercation, if you will, where she's trying to fend him off and he's just like, no, baby, no, let's get in the back seat. She asks if he loves her and He says, yeah. And then she asks, why? And he says, 'cause you fine.
Oh, God. Answer every girl wants to hear. Yeah.
We've all been there. And she just gives him that stare like, you're playing. Like, no, that is not a good answer. You best get out of here.
I suck.
And then she asks him to go get her some popcorn and jujubes. And so he gets out of the car, he begins to leave, and then he turns back and tells her that the real reason why he loves her is that if he were to go to jail, she'd send him some of her poems. And then she gets a real big smile. He goes into the concession stand, and then outside of the concessions, there are two guys that are playing an arcade game just outside of the concession stand. And one of the guys is asking, is that the guy from the mall earlier who was talking shit? And then Markel gets jujubes and popcorn, gets back to the car, and Justice is waiting for him and sitting in the back seat. And he tells her that he saw the guys that he'd had beef with at the mall. She doesn't register this, and she just begins to start to undress her top and stuff like that. And he's getting into it, and all of a sudden we see a shadow of a gun come through the window and shoots Markel straight in the head. And we get our title card, and we get a voiceover of our first poem, and we see Justice visiting Markel's grave. And this is also where we learn that she's a hairdresser. She is driving to work, and we also get a nice little cameo where her license on her car says Just Us, as in Justice. And as she's driving into work, there is a group of cops arresting a group of Black men. And once inside the salon, we meet Regina King's character, Aisha, and some of the other staff at Jesse's, where Justice works. Jesse, of course, who's played by Tyra Farrell, Hayward, played by Roger Smith, and Dexter, played by Keith Washington. Jesse and Justice have a very special relationship compared to Jesse with the other hairdressers, because they talk about Jesse's love life and then Justice's lack of love life, and specifically because she seems to still be in mourning because she still wears a whole bunch of black. And Jesse tells Justice she makes bad choices in men. Tupac's character, Lucky, as a postman, pulls up. He notices Justice and asks, why are you always so mad? Isn't that the best question that you get?
Why aren't you smiling? You should smile more.
You should smile more.
I
Grown.
was already
That is the
irritated.
perfect answer.
I know. Also, like, back to her friend, I think. Oh my gosh.
Jesse or Aisha?
I think Jesse. Complaining that she doesn't have a man yet because she's still in mourning. Like, I don't know if it specifically stated how much time had passed, but like,
No.
but still, like, the trauma that she went through. Like,
Right?
I just feel like she could have just been had a little more empathy towards her
Right.
situation. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this poor woman just went through this, like, horrific event, and her mind is like, when are you going to get a man? Like,
Right.
just to make you forget about all those problems.
Well, especially since Jessie isn't even the type to really have a man either, like she's really the type to just have someone for what she needs and then move on.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my goodness.
I'm like, that doesn't seem to add up.
Yeah.
2 and 2 isn't equaling 4 here.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, to your point, Lucky even says, you must got no man because you never smile. Justice pulls him in and asks him, what do you really want from me? Let's cut the bullshit. You want to smell my punani? And that is my favorite word ever to come out of this movie.
I don't think I've ever heard that word be used in any real life situation.
I certainly have not. I'll tell you that much. So I watched this with the subtitles on like I usually do.
Okay.
I found out how it was spelled. So it's Poonani. punani.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know. I was just like, oh my gosh, that is so next level. I can't even. And then, of course, he replies back, well, yeah. And then the next part is so great because then she asks Jessie to come back over and she asks her if she should let him. And Jessie says, yeah. And then she leans over to Lucky and breathes in his face.
So grossed out by this whole film. I'm like, that's also I hate gum. And
Oh
throughout
my
this
gosh,
entire
yeah.
movie,
Yep.
just chewing like a cow. It was
Yeah.
fine. I'm like, shut your mouth. You're so beautiful.
Yeah.
But this is like, I'm like, stop.
Yeah. That is true. Janet Jackson's just chewing gum the entire movie.
Entire movie. I don't
The
think
entire movie.
I feel like there are more scenes where she's chewing gum like that than she's not. If
Yeah,
any.
I don't think there's a single scene where she's not chewing gum.
I don't think there is. It's a little character trait of hers.
Yeah, pretty much.
She ran with it.
So then he leaves the that's the word I'm looking for. And then we cut to Lucky at the post office where he's talking to his boss and saying that he's not going to work some specific routes, specifically because there are some Rottweilers that one of the individuals on the route has. And his boss is like, that's why you've got Mace.
Oh my gosh.
And then this is where we meet Chicago and EJ. They're throwing darts. And Chicago tells Lucky that he's going up to Oakland. He's going to do a run, which is what they do in the post office. They drive this gigantic truck up to Oakland from LA. And so they have somebody drive it from the post office over the weekend. And he asks Lucky if he wants to go. And Lucky's like, yeah, absolutely. And Lucky in return says, are there going to be some yamps? And EJ's like, what the hell are yamps? And Lucky's like, young tramps.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, good Lord.
The slang in this movie.
I know, right? I'm like, am I old or is this just 90s?
I think it's a bit of old as far also culture. It's a combination of the two for sure.
And then so Chicago says that he's bringing his yamp and that he'll have her bring somebody for him. So Lucky heads out, and when he pulls up to where he's heading, 3 guys pull up in a car near him, and they're looking for some revenge on a previous hit. And Lucky says, good luck. Have some peace with you guys. Here, Lucky goes and he meets up with a friend, J Bone, and Lucky and him talk about their baby mama. So J Bone and Lucky share the same baby mama. And J Bone says, oh, if you need, I can help you out. I can take your daughter for some clothes, she's calling me daddy anyway. And Lucky's, hell nah. And he goes inside, picks up his daughter, Keisha, and asks her, who's your daddy? And she says, you. And just when J-Bone gets inside, Lucky says, see, she's my daughter, and that's your son over there. So Lucky and J-Bone go inside. They're sitting down, watching some cartoons with their children. And that's when Bone gets called to come outside to handle a money transaction for something. And Lucky looks in the candy bowl and he sees there's a glass pipe. Here's where he goes and he confronts the baby mama, Angel. And when this happens, he goes inside the room and sees that she's just about to get busy with another dude. Just as Bone is finishing up with the transaction, he starts to hear a commotion from upstairs, and Lucky and the other dude are starting to get into fisticuffs. Then Bone and Lucky kick the shit out of this other dude, and Lucky takes Keisha out of the house and says that he's going to take her to his mom's and that his daughter doesn't need to be a part of any of this shit.
I love how he gets into it right in front of the kids instead of being like, let's maybe put the kids outside or take this outside.
Nope.
The whole shindig goes down right in front of the kids.
So the fighting starts to die down as we hear a voiceover of Justice reading a poem called In Time. And we return to the salon where Justice has finished Aisha's hair. And she gets a page from Chicago, so you know we're in the 90s. And she goes to use a payphone, so you definitely know we're in the 90s, to call him. So Hayward just gets off the phone and looks stunned. And we never find out why he goes completely stone-faced or what happened, but then he just starts some shit with Dexter. And these guys seem to be always going at it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I never understood their little fits.
I don't either. And I don't understand why they're placed right next to each other. Like, why are their chairs right next to each other if they can't play next weekend for a hair show as well?
I don't know.
And as Justice's face falls, Jesse tells her that she needs to take some risks weekend for a hair show as well. And as Justice's face falls, Jesse tells her that she needs to take some risks and get out there. Aisha comes back to Justice and tells her that Chicago is doing a run and wants her to come with. Aisha asks Justice if she wants to come on the run with her. And Justice is like, And then Aisha asks, why don't you want to have no fun no more? Don't you know the world is just a big place for us to go out and fuck up in it? That's the line. So next we see Justice at home, and she's having a very quiet night in. And the next morning we cut to Lucky and his mom. He tells his mom that he wants his daughter to come live with them for good. And she's like, you know, I ain't going to be taking care of this girl. And he's like, I know.
Good. I'm so proud of her for setting boundaries right away.
I know,
She's
right?
like, I'm not going to be the one to watch this kid. I did my time.
For sure. We see that Justice has got her bags all packed, and then she starts to feed her cats. So she's got this really cute white cat that she calls White Boy. And then she goes and she feeds him outside. And so all the other neighborhood cats come too. And then just as she gets all of her bags in the car, she's about to leave, but then her car won't start. So then she has to call Aisha, and she gives in. She decides that she's going to go on the run because they just happen to be going to Oakland as well. Right? Like, this is the loser who was hitting on me on the salon yesterday. And then Lucky sees her and he's like, oh, hell no. That's that stuck-up bitch who was at the salon yesterday.
Hoping I blew her nasty breath in my mouth. Or in my face.
I don't blame him on that.
I know, yeah.
But of course, Chicago and Aisha convince them to make peace, and they all head out together. So Aisha and Chicago are in the back of the mail truck, and Lucky and Justice are in the front. And on the road, Lucky begins to rap, and Justice is ultra quiet. Like, so quiet, you could cut through the tension.
Yeah, for sure. It was very awkward silence.
It was super awkward silence. So with that, here's where Lucky asks again, why are you so mean? What you gotta be so mean about? And then she's like, nuh-uh, you're not gonna call me a bitch. Pull over. And then she gets out and they have a fuck you off. Oh, I can't tell you how many times they said fuck you.
Oh my God, the swearing at each other. I'm like, oh my God, where do these people get this audacity to speak essentially to a stranger?
I know.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's so funny.
The over the top reactions, the disrespect. I'm like, oh my God.
So Lucky pulls over and leaves Justice on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. Aisha comes up to the front And it's like, where's Justice? And Lucky's like, stuck a bitch. I left her on the side of the road. And she's like, let's go get her. You can't leave her out here in the middle. How? I don't know how, because they skip over it. But somehow they go and they get her. Well, they go and they turn back, at least.
They flip the Yui at some point.
So they go back for her, and they have to drive slowly alongside her because she's being very stubborn and just stomping alongside the highway. And Aisha gets out and she's like, I know you're not going to let him make you walk all the way up to Oakland.
Oh, no.
So the group stops at a gas station and the girls go inside to grab snacks and drinks and the guys fill up on gas. Aisha, we find out, is a little bit of an alcoholic. So she wants her gin. Just a smidge. We don't find out how much of an alcoholic until a bit later, but she wants her gin. And Justice says, you best not. And says, you know what Chicago said. And she's like, I got that boy sprung. And I'm even rationing it. And plus, he's a preemie.
So she basically implies here that she's just using him really for money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. She's like, I got him tied around my finger. I'm rationing sex to get what I want, and plus he's over in like 2 minutes. It's fine.
She's playing this guy.
Yep. Meanwhile, he's having the same conversation with Lucky and being like, oh no, I'm not giving her money. No. We're having sex like every night. What are you talking about? And so the girls are up buying all the snacks and stuff. And then they see squirt guns at the front of the register counter. And so then they fill them up with water and they start attacking each other with them as they leave the convenience store. And then Lucky says, come on, let's get, we got a schedule to keep. On the road, Aisha is filling her lemonade up with gin until the point where it's about 1-to-1 ratio about with the whole bottle. So you got half gin, half lemonade of a good size bottle.
Yeah, she did. She made her own little concoction back there.
Pretty much. Yeah. And then Justice is in the front seat and she's writing more poetry. And Chicago asks Aisha to tell him how much she loves him. Then they smell something good and they see a massive Black family reunion, which they then proceed to crash. Justice tells Aisha to stop drinking. Of course, she doesn't respond to that. And we see a montage of different parts of the family reunion. What looks like a very fun family reunion.
Yeah, a massive family reunion. Holy
massive.
Crap.
This thing
also,
is huge.
everybody's wearing like matching shirts, or a lot of them.
They are.
Yeah. I forgot what the name was, but they have the family name in the front.
A guy comes over. He is an older gentleman, and he comes over to Lucky, and he says, my cousin. And Lucky hams it up. He's like, what's up, cuz? And then they all introduce themselves to him, and they're very excited. He's like, oh, you're all part of the family. Come have some barbecue. And he introduces several other of the family members, including some very nosy and judgy aunts that they call the calendar aunts. Aunt April, Aunt May, Aunt June. And Aunt June is Maya Angelou. Lucky and Justice go to get some food. And while Lucky is piling on a plate, Justice locks eyes onto this baby, which is very adorable, and immediately asks to hold this baby. Now, if you never met a person, would you ever just hand them your baby?
I feel like it's normal, and I feel like I've seen it. If you're like at a family...
Random strangers?
Yes. If you're at like a family gathering or like at a party and like basically everybody there knows each other or like your mutual friends or whatever, I think it's normal for people to do that.
I don't even know your name and you're just holding my baby?
Yep. I've been handed people's babies and I've never met the parents. Yeah. So I think it's normal. Yep.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope. Strong disagree. Nope.
Yeah.
I at least need to know a name. If you take off running in another direction, I need a name to tell the cops.
Yeah, I've seen it happen.
That is wild to me.
Yeah, I think it depends
Or
on
I-
where you are.
I at least need to see you next to and with somebody who I know.
True. I can see that, but happens all the time.
That is wild. That is wild. I am dumbfounded.
Am I a terrible person? If a woman does it, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's different because you know how, like, we just want to grab the chunky chunk. Like,
Oh,
and, like, I
baby
feel like,
thighs.
yes, I feel like mothers know when, like, a woman does it and it just seems innocent. Like, if some random guy came up and asked to hold my baby, then I would be like, red flag, no thank you. But if I saw another woman there and you can, like, I don't know, you can sense her vibe and she just has baby fever, I don't think I'd mind if I was right there.
Now
You know
I
what
feel
I
like I
mean?
need to do a social experiment. I just need to go
I'm
and
oh my
like
gosh.
randomly ask people to hold their babies. I'm going to try
Right?
this at like a farmer's market. Be like, can I hold your baby?
I don't know. If it's like a random public place and they're complete strangers, then no. But if it's like someone's birthday party and everybody there, like the person you're there knows these people, I would
All right.
imagine they wouldn't invite freaks. I wouldn't let them out of my sight.
I need to
but-
crash more family parties, is what you're saying. Okay.
Do it.
I got this.
Yes. Go to more friends like parties and families parties and just start holding people's random babies.
You know, I did crash a homecoming dance in high school. So
What?
I crashed another high school's homecoming dance.
Were you invited by someone
No.
that went to that school? How did you even find
No.
it? How did you get there? Like, how does that happen?
I used to go to that high school, but the
Oh,
next year I didn't go to that, and I went stag.
So you like knew people who went there. That's amazing.
So yes, my new plan is to find random family gatherings, crash their parties, and ask to hold random babies, and see how many people will let me hold their babies. Let's see how well this is aged in 30 years.
I think you're gonna be surprised at how many women will let you hold their babies.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to that. I'll let you know what the success rate is. So anyway, she tells Lucky, "You got a kid, don't you?" And he completely deflects and instead asks her in return. But she responds somehow, some way, like we're supposed to believe her that she don't even like kids. I'm like, lady, you just picked up a random baby at a random family gathering.
Yeah, she's playing with that baby, and then later on, she's like reading or playing with little kids. Like,
Yeah, she's letting them play with her hair.
At this party is playing with kids. I'm like, I don't believe you. But I think at this moment he says like that he has a baby, and then
No, he
quickly, like,
doesn't.
moves on. At this point, he doesn't. I thought he did.
No, because that's why there's such a big issue later on. I'll point it out.
Confused. Okay, so later on when like it happens, that's why I was so confused at that.
He said, "Why do you think I have a baby?" And she said, "You look like the type." And he's like, "Nah." And well, he didn't actually say nah. He's just like, "You got a baby, don't you?" And she's like, "I don't even like kids."
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Oh, okay.
So during this, we cut back to Aisha and she's getting more alcohol. And then we see Lucky and Chicago are playing cards. And we see Justice playing with some of the other little girls and they're playing with her hair. And then we see Aisha up on a rock and this guy comes over and starts to strike up a conversation. She goes straight up to her and is like, "Hey, you know, Chicago's going to see you. And then this is going to be a whole heap of trouble." And Aisha's like, "Oh, girl, let me have my game. Get away." And so she goes back to the guy. Chicago sees,
Naughty.
of course. And then Chicago starts to come over to the dude and is about to take it down like WWE style over here.
They start this massive scene at this family gathering where
I
it's
know,
not
that
even
they've
their
crashed.
family gathering. Yeah.
So Lucky, of course, sees this and he's like, can I take this food to go? Cool. Bye. And so they hightail it out of there. And then Aisha and Chicago are fighting in the back of the mail truck. And Justice says that they need to pull over because she's got to talk to Aisha. So they pull over to a rest stop. And Aisha's like, good, because I need to go pee. And the second that they get out of there,
she pukes.
So after Aisha pukes, Justice tells her that she doesn't go places with her because she's become such an alcoholic bitch, just like her mama. And then Aisha's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. And so then they have a moment together and Aisha's like, I know I need to stop. I know I need to stop. So then she sobers up and gets all cleaned up. And after they get put together, Lucky and Chicago are listening to Lucky's cousin's music. And Chicago is a sourpuss and tells him that he needs to shut that shit off. But Justice comes over and is like, hey, what is it? That's real good. And so then Lucky explains that it's his cousin's and that at some point in time, him and his cousin are going to start making music together and that they're going to, start to soar essentially. So later on, they make a stop at the ocean and we see that Justice and Aisha are sitting and Lucky and Chicago are out in the waves a little bit with their feet in the water.
Justice turns to Aisha and tells her, I think I want to go on a diet once we get back. Aisha responds, since when do you want to go on a diet?
Ah, you want to get lucky, I see.
How awful that, like, as soon as a girl's like, I want to lose weight, it must automatically mean that it's to get a guy. I'm like, oh gosh.
Oh man, it was 93.
It's the 90s for you. 90s and early 2000s.
Right. So then we get voiceover of what each of the four characters are thinking.
Their inner dialogues.
Yes, their inner dialogue. Exactly.
So here, Justice is looking at Lucky and thinking, well, he's kind of fly, but nah. And then Lucky's looking at Justice and thinking, she's kind of fly, but nah. And then Aisha is off daydreaming about, I wonder if my mom picked up her dry cleaning, and imagining about going shopping with some other guy. And Chicago's off daydreaming about, you know what, I should really drop Aisha. And I'm cool, I'm hot shit. And he's sitting there boasting himself up.
So then Aisha tells Justice that when they get back to LA, she's going to quit Chicago.
So the four of them hit the road again, and as they do, they come across an African culture fair in Seaside. And here, Aisha and Chicago are such buzzkills because they are so bored of walking.
I know. That place looks so cool and interesting. And they're like, I don't want to walk anymore. I'm bored. I'm like, oh, go away.
Right? It's like if there's no drinking involved, you can't be bothered.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then here, Lucky and Justice are starting to actually like hit a good spot, And so they start talking about poetry and they start talking about like what makes good poetry. And it's all about like finding what's in their hearts. And then Chicago says, why do we keep stopping? We got a schedule to keep. Oh, I see. You're just trying to get with this bitch. And then so Justice says, fuck you.
And she storms off. And then Lucky tells Chicago, I'm tired of your shit. And walks off himself.
After they've gotten on the road, this is where Chicago and Aisha begin making out. And Aisha looks hella bored. But then Chicago's like, hey, why don't we do it right here, right now? And so she's like, but what about them? And he's like, it'll be fine. And so, do you like my play out there? So they do it. And basically it's over before it starts. What are you talking about here?
Like, she was somewhere else. Like, a whole 2 minutes.
Excuse me?
I didn't even get ramped up. What are you talking about here? So they stop again. And Aisha and Chicago are out by the edge of the road. And they're looking over the ocean. And Aisha and Chicago are fighting. And she's like, I'm turning my back on you. You got nothing to offer me. And she's like, I'm so over you. Like, I've been sleeping with other guys because you can't offer me enough. And then, because he's hurt, he punches her square in the jaw. And
I knew that was going to happen. Like, I saw it come in, but I was still shook. I was like,
right?
So seeing this all, Justice turns to Lucky and says, aren't you going to do something? And he's like, nah, this is their shit.
And when he doesn't do anything, Justice just launches out of that truck and kicks Chicago in the nuts.
yeah, she does.
Chicago, bent over, turns around, and then lunges after Justice, tackles her to the ground, and that's when Lucky decides to get out of the truck. He goes after Chicago. He tackles him to the ground, punches him quite a bit, and then they leave Chicago out. And he's like, you can walk the last 15 miles to Oakland.
These toxic relationships. Like, beyond anything.
It wasn't good to start with.
I know. It started off bad and it just hella
Spiraled.
escalated. Yeah.
So they stop once more, and Aisha asks why. Why we got to stop again? And Justice goes to investigate, and she sees that Lucky has walked down to the beach a bit. She follows down with a blanket, and this is where she starts to describe her childhood to Lucky and describes her relationship to her grandma, and that she got her house from her grandma, and that she's named Justice because her mom was in law school when she had her. And really just the sadness of, like, she lost her grandma 6 years ago, and she lost her mom when she was 12, and she's really all alone, and there's really nobody left for her, and she doesn't really have much family left. So
this was the scene. Oh, tiny. This was the scene that explained how she got that house. Because I remember at the
I'll be right
beginning, I was like, that's a cute house. And then I knew it was only her. I'm like, how does she afford that? It's like my thought process now. When I
I'll be
see
right back.
people's homes. Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't sure. Oh, where'd you go? Sorry, I wasn't sure if you could hear her scratching at the door.
I could hear her, but I think it was fine.
But yeah, I'm right there with you. But yeah, so then he doesn't really say a whole lot other than, like, you've been through some shit. Like, and oh no, he says, damn. That is the only line that he says. And then they look at each other's eyes and they kiss.
That was probably for the best.
Yeah.
That's like the best thing he could say in that situation.
Pretty much. Like, what? How does one respond to that?
Exactly.
So eventually they're off again. And just outside of Oakland, Lucky tells her that he's got something to tell her. And this is where we find out that he has a little girl. Or at least we find out that he's finally telling her that he's got a little girl. And she's upset. She's like, why didn't you tell me from the beginning? And he's like, how was I supposed to know we were going to be, like, in love and shit within like the 8 hours that we spent together? Which I don't blame him. Like, they hated each other's guts.
I know.
Like, most people don't tell the person that they're dating that they have a kid until, like, a month later at least.
I know. Until
You
they're
know?
like legit dating consistently.
Right. Like, girl, it's been 8 hours.
I know.
Chill out. So they arrive to his aunt and uncle's house, and there are police cars everywhere. Lucky goes inside his aunt and uncle's place. Nobody's there. And so suddenly he realizes, oh no, the cops. So he runs straight over there and realizes that his cousin's been shot, and he holds his aunt while she's sobbing. His cousin has died from some kind of shooting. So Lucky, grief-stricken, takes Aisha and Justice to meet with Jesse and drops them off. And Justice has been nothing but completely supportive in this time. Like, she's been very
sweet and trying to care for him and trying to be somebody for him to rely on during this time. And he like takes it out on her. He blames Justice for not getting there in time to prevent the shooting. And then he just takes off.
And also, I'm sure personal experience from that. So I feel like old her probably would have lashed back out too. You know, when he lashes out on her, I feel like, you know, her previous self would have responded that way. But since she had like that personal experience and she understands what he's going through, I think that's why, you know, she didn't react back and she
Yeah.
took it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. He goes, and grief does take it out on different people different ways.
Yep.
So Jessie happens to be standing there at just that moment, and she sees the whole thing. And we see Lucky deliver the mail truck as it's getting emptied at the docks. And the guy there is like, I thought there were going to be two of you. And he's like, well, it's just me. Can't you see that? And he's like, all right, well, I don't care. So Jessie tells Aisha, you don't get in a fight with a man with your fists. You fight a man with his wallet. You take his credit cards. And then we could have had drinks on him tonight. And Aisha's like, he ain't got no credit cards. And she's like, then you're the fool, baby.
Oh, God.
So then Jessie and Hayward and one of the other girls go out drinking, and Justice and Aisha stay back, and they're just like, we've had one hell of a day. We're done.
I don't blame them. This
Nope.
entire movie was basically over the span of one day. I'm like,
It
oh
is, yeah.
God.
So Lucky we see in his cousin's room, and he's looking at the recording equipment that he had in his room. And then the next morning, we see Lucky come out to breakfast with his aunt and uncle, and his aunt is basically going through grief like I go through grief. She's just making food like nobody's business. Like, can I get you anything? Can I do anything? Can I do anything else? Can I make more food? Can I do anything else? So I completely relate to that. And so Lucky asks, what are you going to do with Khalil's stuff? Because he wants to keep it. And after headbutting quite a bit, they say, yeah, no, you take it, go home with it. And finally, he heads home.
I love how I think the sister of the one who passed was like, oh, we're going to sell it because we need the money. I'm like,
I know, she was so adamant. See, and I don't know. I'm with him on this.
Where he's coming from, but I'm like, I'm sure those were hard times for them. Funerals are not cheap, my friend.
That's true. I think there's like a compromise that one could have.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe like some of the equipment you can keep.
What's the most essential pieces you need?
I know.
Yeah.
What is the cheapest the part of this equipment? And then give us the rest.
So we also see that the salon staff put on a really good show. I don't know exactly what part of the show or how well they did, but there is a show. There are models with their hair done that we see on the catwalk, you know. Everybody had a really good response. So it seemed like it did well. I don't know anything beyond that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
But then we see Justice is finally home, and we have another voiceover of one of her poems. We see Lucky home, working on the setup of the equipment that he took. And then we also see that he shocks the hell out of himself, and his daughter comes in, and he's like, go in the living room. You can't be in here. So Justice is getting ready for the day, and instead of putting on her regular black clothing, she puts on a white crop top and puts her hair up instead of just putting on a hat. And then at the salon, everyone is hard at work, and Justice is finishing up with a client, and Lucky walks in with his daughter. He asks to sit down for a minute, and he actually says that he's sorry, and he apologizes, and they kiss. Justice says, what have you done with this child's head? And he takes her back into the chair and asks her, what do you want done with your hair, sweetie? And gets really, personable with his daughter, and is just very sweet. And that's how the movie ends.
I really wanted to see the end result of her hairstyle.
because it
Right?
cuts just her starting her hair. And I'm like, oh, I want to see
know.
what she does with it. I bet it's going to be so cute. And then we never see it.
I know. Janet Jackson can probably do many, many things, but I don't know if she actually can be a hairstylist.
True.
So, but yeah. So this movie does pass the Bechdel test. We have Justice talking to Jesse. We have Justice talking to Aisha.
Yeah.
We've got Justice talking to Keisha. Like,
I mean, there's a lot of females talking to each other, but I felt a lot of them were about men.
a lot of conversation is about men, but we
Yeah.
just need like 2 lines of dialogue here.
Yeah, they talked about her alcoholism. I guess
Yeah.
there's that.
We talk about alcoholism. We talk about mamas. We talk about Keisha's teacher at the end. We talk about her hair. We talk about hair in general. Like,
there's a few things.
we talk about putting on black. Like,
Clothing, yeah. Mourning.
yep. So many things. We talk about caravanning.
Gotcha.
So quite a few things.
Ooh.
So some fun trivia. So when Justice is driving in her car in the beginning, she passes Crenshaw Square on Crenshaw Boulevard, and you'll see the damage to the shopping center from the LA riots, which occurred during filming. And according to John Singleton, when the 92 LA riots occurred, Tupac actually left set to participate in the protests, and then he would return to the set in time for filming.
So Ice Cube was originally offered the role of Lucky, but turned it down because he thought it was not the right time for him to play a romantic lead. Plus, he was already committed to the movie Trespass.
I have not seen that. Have you?
We will have to take a look at it. So at the time of filming, EJ, the Mexican coworker who was throwing darts in the post office, who was played by Renee, he was actually married to Janet Jackson, and they were a couple from 91 to 2000. So Janet Jackson and John Singleton actually wrote the scene of Lucky and Justice meeting for the first time.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, whose idea was that?
I think that was Janet Jackson's.
Probably, yeah.
And then, so John Singleton had like 7 kids, and his first daughter is actually named Justice.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
Named after the main character.
Oh, that's sweet.
Mm-hmm. And then in this movie, there are 6 different recording artists.
We have the obvious Tupac and Janet Jackson. Then we also have Mickey Howard, Keith Washington, Tone Loc, and Q-Tip.
Mm-hmm. So lots and lots of musical artists.
Oh, wow. I always forget how young Tupac was when he passed. It's so crazy. So sad.
So what are your thoughts on the movie?
I thought the poems, I thought those were beautiful. I'm really glad that they incorporated Maya Angelou's writing there. I feel like if you are someone who comes from the LA area and this resonates with you, I feel like it might be more, I don't know, I feel like you would enjoy it more.
You seem so nervous.
I know.
Be so
A
diplomatic.
lot of, yes, there's a lot of toxicity that made me roll my eyes in this movie. I'm like, the way they speak to each other. Oh my gosh. Like,
It could also be the 30 years of time that have passed.
true. Yes. I wouldn't even really consider this a love story, honestly. Like, not at all. If Ice Cube did decide to go with this movie, I wouldn't be like, oh, he's in a love story. Like, I just feel like it happens to be a movie. It's a drama where 2 people end up together. Yeah, that's it. They have
What
like,
really constitutes love, though? Some people are that way in general, and they love each other somehow. And I'm just like, okay, if that works for you, man.
yeah. What were your thoughts on it? How did you feel about it?
I feel like it's good. You know, I don't necessarily need to rewatch it again.
Yes, I thought.
You know, I think it's good for a single watch.
I'm glad I watched
Maybe
it.
a second watch. Yeah. I think the second watch was better than the first watch, but I don't think I ever need to watch it again.
Okay. You watched it twice?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. Oh, sometimes when I do these recaps, especially if I'm taking the notes, I watch it once
Yeah.
to just get it, to watch it through, and then I watch it again to take my notes. So
Yeah.
I watched it 2 times, and the second watch, I felt pretty good. Like I thought it was a little bit better the second time I watched it.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I'm good. I don't think I ever need to watch it again.
I don't need to watch it.
And that's okay. So that's our verdict.
Yes.
One and done. This is a one and done movie.
One and done movie. This is one of them. Also, I just want to point out how beautiful Regina is. Both of them were way too beautiful for their male counterparts. I'm like, girl,
Very
you
much so.
are too good for that man.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, you are so right. Like the way that Janet Jackson's like just portrayed in this movie, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize exactly how pretty Janet Jackson is.
I know. Oh my goodness. Gorge.
And then
yeah,
it's so funny because like I watched a couple of different interviews of Tupac, and he really is just that silly and laughter just surrounds him. So those moments when he's very jovial in the movie, that is just how he is even. So that was fun to see.
that's sweet.
Any final thoughts?
I think I'm good. It was a one and done thought for a one and done movie.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Caffeinated Flicks. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at Caffeinated Flicks Pod or email us at caffeinatedflicks@gmail.com.
And just like every other podcast, we would love it if you could follow us in your podcasting app and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us get better. And if you're enjoying us so far, please tell a friend.
We'll catch you on the flick side.